Shut up.
Yeah, that's great. All right. uh, Welcome everybody to the what is it, sixth episode of the Marvel Buddies podcast. We're starting off fairly strong with a fan favorite, highly requested character this weekend. Um, and I have brought this week a very special guest to the podcast. Hello, Addex.
Thanks for having me on tonight. Appreciate being here. Huge Marvel fan.
Of course, of course. Glad that you're with me today. Sadly for this week, Zeno and Ducky will not be joining, as Ducky is no longer with us and Zeno cannot make it. However, just a few updates to everyone watching. Uh, we'll be covering Moon Knight this weekend, as there's no guessing game today. Addex already knows, and the following weekend we will be or the following Monday we'll be covering, hopefully Monday, depending on scheduling. We'll be covering Shang-Chi after the movie that just got released. I'll be talking a little bit about his character, the movie, different things, um, and then that should be the end of the week. So we'll be hitting our event for the end of the month, and we'll be covering the What If events from I want to say it was in the 90s, 80s, 90s, somewhere around there. So those will be the next 3 weeks of episodes. Following that, you guys, I will really quickly here send out the form. You guys can vote for um, on this link. You guys can vote for which character you want to see me do for the beginning of next month, and after that, we will continue with your character's requests. Um, or
Yeah,
you,
honestly, I
yeah,
can't wait.
yeah,
I'm the one who requested Moon Knight. I'm very interested in this character. I've wanted to learn more and more about him, considering one of my favorite actors. I cannot believe Oscar Isaac is going to be playing him in the Marvel TV show Moon Knight. And I'm very interested to find out more about this character from a comic book standpoint rather than the MCU standpoint. So I'll be able to have something to compare them based off of. But I'm very appreciative to be here tonight, and I can't wait to learn a lot.
for sure, for sure. So this week, we start off fairly explosive. So
Yes.
it was unlike last week. Unlike last week, which literally had a school being nuked, this week is also fairly explosive. There's no nuking schools, but
What?
we
Just
covered
quick
civil.
recap
Sorry,
on that.
we covered Civil War last week. In case anyone didn't see it, it will be up on the YouTube channel very soon. As soon as I can get the YouTube channel up, it'll be all of the episodes will be posted there. I'm still working on trying to get the YouTube up, but we did cover Civil War last week, and as most of you know, Nitro blows up the school in the beginning of that, and it was gonna be a joke. I forgot Addex
so
didn't tune into that.
so that's just how the Civil War comic just starts. A
Yeah,
school being nuked.
yeah, it pretty much the comic starts with a couple villains being ambushed by heroes. Nitro tries to
That's a little
escape,
different.
blows up a school. Yeah,
That's a little different than Civil. That's a little bit different than the
from the
movie.
movie,
It's a little
yeah, for sure.
disappointing.
Yeah, I think they used at that point they had used the events of Age of Ultron. Yeah, very intense. They had used the events of Age of Ultron and the Sokovia being dropped to cover the same amount of damage, but I mean it's a little different. One being an entire school of kids, 800 plus children being blown up. Uh, it's whatever. But this week we're starting off with Moon Knight, and he made his MCU or Marvel comic debut in a Werewolf by Night comic, Werewolf by Night number 32 by Doug Munch. And this character was from his debut fully decked out with silver weapon and gear. And as you all know, Werewolf by Night, or may not know, Werewolf by Night, aka Jack Russell. That is the character's name. Um, he was Moon Knight, or our character's name is Mark Spencer. Was tasked in subduing and bringing in Werewolf by Night Jack Russell for this man, this ugly looking dude with a lot of money. He works for a company. Yeah, really, really not the best looking guy. He has a lot of money. He said, Moon Knight, I will give you this much money upon receiving Werewolf by Night, and um, he also presented him with the costume that he's famous for, the all white hooded crescent moon symbol, and the silver weapons. Um, so it starts off immediately. Moon Knight is just beating the crap out of Werewolf by Night. Yeah, the nefarious double chin. Yeah, as all businessmen have, of course.
So this ugly looking guy here,
Yeah,
is this like a significant character,
just some
or
dude, just some really rich dude. Well,
so he's just literally just
some rich
just
dude that
okay.
has some beef, some sort of beef with Werewolf by Night, and he wants the werewolf caught and brought in. Um, so he hires Moon Knight to go after Jack Russell, and he's like that's how the comic starts pretty much. It's just the comic starts with Moon Knight and Werewolf by Night already fighting. Moon Knight like having all these silver weapons, which is like super painful to these werewolves. So he breaks pretty much he breaks his like left arm. And like the Werewolf by Night is whimpering like already, and he's looking up at Moon Knight, and he's saying that he's like I can't believe what's going on, and pretty much we get a little bit of backstory on Jack Russell. He hitched a ride after he turned into a werewolf. He started eating a bunch of people, and he pretty much mauled his best friend. And when he turned back, he tried to go to the hospital to see his friend who was in the coma. Most of his body was just gone at that point.
Okay,
And
so quick question.
yeah.
Jack Russell,
Hmm.
I'm assuming he's some kind of just werewolf. Does he have any kind of significance to the rest of the comics, or
So the only significance for Moon Knight with Werewolf by Night, there's two. Um, and I won't be talking about the second one. They're very minor. But for one, Moon Knight made his appearance in Werewolf by Night, and that's pretty much it. The other one is that they're both technically members of the Midnight Suns, which I went over briefly in Blade. Both of them eventually do join the team as they are like supernatural being hunting beings kind of thing. Like Werewolf by Night is a werewolf, and Moon Knight hunts most of the time. He hunts supernatural beings.
gotcha?
So that's kind of like their relationship, but there's not much to it that I understand to it. They're not very connected. Besides the fact that they're both Midnight Suns characters.
Okay,
Um,
I just wanted to get a clearer picture of who Jack Russell was.
Yep, no worries. But other than that, Jack Russell, he's trying to make his way to the hospital. He starts talking to the people there, like what happened, why, and then he comes to realize that it was him as the werewolf killing or mauling his best friend. So he goes home to his father, and when he gets to his father, he's interrupted by Moon Knight. Moon Knight's already in his house talking to his father, saying, "I need to see your son." Um, and his father is there. His father's like, "You won't take my son," and he tackles Moon Knight, and he's like, "Run, Jack, run!" And Jack Russell runs out of the building, but it's a full moon still, so he turns back into the werewolf, and Moon Knight breaks free of his dad, who has like nothing special about him, and Moon Knight is fully kitted in like armor and whatnot, and so Moon Knight breaks free, goes after Jack, and that's where it kind of like all comes back full circle. Moon Knight breaks Jack's wrist, and they keep fighting, and pretty much they wanted Moon Knight to be this ultra badass. Jack Russell was a fairly popular character throughout the 70s and 80s. There was a big like boom with like monster characters. What's up,
Yeah.
Crown? But there was a big boon with monster characters, and so everyone really liked Blade, the Vampire Hunter, and you had Dracula and Morbius, the Living Vampire, made his debut around that time, and so all of these characters kind of like all these like mystical like um, story kind of characters like werewolves and vampires kind of appeared, and for Moon Knight to just come in and already like beat the crap out of Werewolf by Night and that's pretty much the comic. Moon Knight absolutely devastates Werewolf by Night. He swings his arms, they're hitting each other, and at the end of the fight, a civilian calls the police, but it's too late. Moon Knight is holding Werewolf by Night by the back of his hide and pulling up in his helicopter and just dragging him inside and taking him back. He takes him back to the ugly dude, and that's his debut comic. That's all there is to the Werewolf by Night comic. Moon Knight gets paid and he leaves. That's how it ends.
He just comes in, gets his
He's
werewolf, leaves.
Yeah. So what you need to understand about Mark Spencer is that he is ex-military mercenary kind of deal. He's for hire, right? And so with his first issue, the first Moon Knight comic debuted in 1980, and this is his backstory pretty much. Um, so you have a group of mercenary commandos, and the team is led by a skull-faced terrorist named Bushman. Let's see if I can find a picture of Bushman. It's gonna be. I don't think I have a. I didn't get a picture of Bushman. Okay. I'll search up a picture of Bushman. Bushman. Um. Yeah.
Unfortunate,
Unfortunately, I did
but
not get a picture of Bushman, but it's basically a guy with a tattoo of a skull on his face. Let's see if I can find a good one. Something like this. He just has like a tattoo on his face. And his teeth are made of steel. Yep, the 80s.
so it kind of looks like he's wielding a keyblade. It's odd.
Yeah, in the back here. So that's he's very big, especially with the events of Moon Knight, this first Moon Knight comic. He's very big on Egyptian artifacts. For one, he's the like mercenary kind of deal. Like he'll do anything for money. Um, so this mercenary commando squad led by Bushman, him and his like plus one like commander, captain, whatever, the guy, like the general with him is Mark Spencer. The two of them are mercenary commandos taking down rebels in the south of Egypt, by the like south of the like right on the or yeah like south of the Egyptian border, and they pretty much kill everybody. Um, and so no, the comic is like this guy. He started his day as the mercenary, but at the end of the day, he'll be something different, kind of thing. And so they kill everybody off, all the rebels, and a helicopter lands, and it's this French guy. They call him Frenchie, and he comes in. He has the most like racist French accent, wee z as he speaks. But pretty much he's like, oh, we got the information on the next rebel camp, and this came in, and he gives them like a piece of information, and they find out that someone has yeah. I can't wait for the Moon Knight TV show either. But pretty much the Frenchie comes in, he gives him a piece of paper, and it's like a map or like some sort of information regarding a tomb, like a pharaoh's tomb in Egypt. And Bushman comes, and he's like, "Oh, you're reading my notes behind my back," and he kind of like takes it. And at this time, Mark realizes like this guy is kind of like I'm fighting for the wrong side. Um,
Yeah.
he's like, I realize I'm not fighting for the right side. Like the rebels, I should be fighting for them, but I can't since I'm already working and hired by Bushman. So him and Frenchie are like talking. They're like, we need to find a way out of here. And Bushman is kind of like, if we hit the tomb, we can steal all the gold and then melt it down and sell it for profit. And yeah, you guys like my French accent, I see. You guys could, if you guys want to clip that and leave that on Twitch, for you guys to hear it. But that's pretty much how it went. How it goes. The the Bushman wants, he wants gold, and Mark's trying to like, stop things before he gets out of hand. So they continue with the Pharaoh raid, and they start killing off more militiamen. At the as they get to the tomb, there's an archaeologist there, and him and his daughter are both working together trying to uncover all the like artifacts. And he realizes he's like, I need to kill the leader off before all of the soldiers come and kill us and take our things. That's why they're here. That's why they're near us. They found out about the tomb, and so he comes out with this dagger. It's like this weird like curved dagger. It looks like this. It's like all golden, and there's diamond encrusted at the bottom. It's kind of a terrible picture, but he goes up and he's like, I'm gonna kill Bushman, and he goes to stab him, but Mark kind of like slaps the knife out of his hand. He's like, no, no, no. Um, so he blocks the dagger, and Bushman like executes him. He takes his teeth, his silver teeth, and bites down on him and kills him. And his daughter saw the whole thing, and well, not the whole thing, but she knows that the mercenaries killed her father, and so in the father's like last breath, he's like, get my daughter, protect my daughter, kind of thing. And
Mm.
so like Mark gets Frenchie to start the helicopter, and they go to find the girl. And he finds her, and he's like, "Hey, you need to get out of here." And she's like, "No, no, I'm not gonna listen to you. I'm gonna." And uh, yeah, yeah, yeah. And so his daughter's kind of like, "I won't go," and he's like, "You'll leave on that jeep now, or I'll kill you," kind of thing. Um, so she goes, she drives away, and she drives back to like the tomb, and Bushman notices. He's like, "Oh, you let the girl go, but no worries, we'll follow her and make our way to the tomb." And so they before they do that, they make their way back to the camp, and there, Mark Spector and Frenchie, they're talking. They're like, "Dude, we need to leave now before things get worse. Like, forget the gold, forget the money. We need to get out now. Like, Bushman is making us like kill people." And he turns around and immediately, Bushman has like a firing squad on civilians, and he's just executing civilians. And Mark goes and he attacks Bushman and like tries to beat him, but like Bushman, Mark is kind of blinded by anger kind of deal, and Bushman is clear-headed and beats him up, and then he has like this big buff guy like drag him towards the desert and abandon him, and Mark like when he wakes up, it's the middle of the night, and it's like, you know, the cold of the desert kind of sends like seeps in because it's nighttime, and he's like, I need to make it to the nearest town and get some water and kind of whatnot. And so he's making his way, and he passes out, and someone takes him, and they take him to the tomb where the girl is, and it's the tomb of Pharaoh Setis. And there, the girl has all of her artifacts, and she's like taking it up, and getting ready to leave before Bushman arrives. And she's like, "Oh, I know who this is. He's the guy that killed my father, or one of the people that killed my father. Leave him there to die." And then as she's getting in her jeep, she's like, "Oh, I can't really leave him to die." And so she starts praying to Khonshu, the god of the temple. And by a miracle, this is Khonshu. I have a better picture. This is what Khonshu looks like. Khonshu kind of revives Mark. His heart stops beating, and it like starts beating back again. And and he wakes up and takes the like cloak off of the statue of Khonshu, and he at that point he has become Moon Knight, the as they call it, the champion of Khonshu, the taker of vengeance, whatnot. And
So
so
essentially, we got Norse mythology and Egyptian mythology now.
Oh yeah, Marvel has a list of mythology put into it. Japanese mythology is very big. With Wolverine, they pray a lot to the Japanese gods, and what's her name? Psylocke, the newer Psylocke. Not Captain Britain Psylocke. She's the new Psylocke is now the original Psylocke is now Captain Britain. There's a new Japanese girl. She prays a lot to the Japanese gods, and that's how she gets her powers. There's a lot of like I'm pretty sure Vishnu, the like Hindi god, is there. He's another like character in the MCU. There's a bunch of like Marvel characters, like gods that are portrayed in the MCU, made up and real. So yeah, and Khonshu pretty much. I'll retell this story from Khonshu's perspective at the end with the latest comic, but pretty much Mark wants revenge, and he's like, I'm gonna go seek revenge on Bushman for killing this innocent girl's father and for leaving me to die. And he puts on the cloak, and he takes a couple of curved knives, like similar to this, but just not gold encrusted, and
Right.
he like immediately throws it and stabs someone through the chest, one of like Bushman's like guards or whatnot, and then he takes another guy and literally dunks him into a box of grenades. Yeah, Betsy Braddock, the old Psylocke, is now Captain Britain crown in the newer X-Men comics. Um, but yeah, pretty much,
Gotcha.
yeah.
Gotcha. I just have another quick question.
What's up?
Later on in this document you have written here, do you have a detailed list of Moon Knight's powers, or are we getting to that?
So, from my understanding, there are no powers.
So
What I
he's just pretty much just a
he
badass
is
supernatural hunter.
Marvel's Batman, as they put it. He is Marvel's
I was
Batman.
about to say that.
He has so his weapons include like a whole list of armor that he's gotten from Egypt, brass knuckles, um a staff, like a big long white staff, and his main weapon, they call it crescent darts, are pretty much batarangs that he throws. Um that's his toolkit. Um yeah. Pretty much Mark beats the crap out of everybody, and he tries to fight Bushman, but Bushman runs away and leaves the camp, and Mark wants revenge on Bushman. So him and Frenchie and the girl who later we find out her name is Marlene. Yeah, him and Marlene, they head back to New York. He lives in Long Island, and they make he gets the true Moon Knight costume and the like equipment. And this is where the real thing with Moon Knight steps in. When he makes it to New York, he's still Mark Spencer, but he's also Stephen Grant, a Wall Street millionaire, and Jake Lockley, a cab driver. And the three of them come together with the spirit of Khonshu to be Moon Knight. And now, so from my understanding, when he was made in the 80s, they really wanted this to be kind of like a thing specific to this run of Moon Knight. However, they've portrayed it to where Moon Knight has multiple personality disorder. Moon Knight believes, or Mark believes, that he is the billionaire Stephen Grant, or a millionaire, as well as Jake Lockley, the cab driver, and Mark Spencer. And on top of that, he hears Khonshu speak to him. So there's like all these voices in his head talking to him, like, oh, me, the rich guy, oh, the cab driver, oh, Mark, right?
So essentially, it's literally just the three of his personalities all become Moon Knight in the end of their stories, and he's like
Basically,
Moon
yeah.
Knight from that point on.
Yep,
That's actually pretty nice.
yeah, he is almost always Moon Knight. It's just dependent on who he was before that puts on the cloak, kind of thing. So like when he takes off the Moon Knight cloak, whichever personality was prominent to putting on the cloak is what he becomes when he takes it off. Yeah, Moon Knight is a very cool character. He's one of the first characters I've had to read that's had some sort of mental disability of some sorts, which is the multiple personality disorder, or they call it DID, dissociative identity disorder. It's he has multiple voices talking to him in his head. One of which is real is Khonshu, the spirit of the Egyptian god. He speaks to Moon Knight, and Moon Knight's like, I can't beat this person. How do I beat him? And Khonshu will tell him how. Um, but he has the ID with the other three characters, Jake, Steven, and Mark. But pretty much this comic continues with Moon Knight having or having Frenchie fix up the helicopter. So it's not really a helicopter. It's one of the Crescent Batarangs kind of thing. So his helicopter has changed a lot. But he pretty much has like the Crescent helicopter. Like it's pretty much just like a spinning thing, and it's just in the shape of a crescent moon. It's kind of weird.
So he has his own version of the Thanos copter.
Yeah,
or was
pretty
this
much.
before the Thanos copter?
Around the same time, the 1980s. So, it might beat each other by like dates, like months. They both came out in the 80s. So, it looks like if you've seen the Batwing, like the Batman's jet kind of thing, how it's like shaped like the bat signal, the bat symbol. It's kind of like in a C or a U shape, and there's like thrusters in the back that like launch it. That's kind of it's kind of weird. I can show you a picture of the Moon Knight. Hold on, Moon Knight helicopter. I Moon Knight Knight.
Nice, just a real helicopter.
Yeah. So Moon Knight's helicopter looked like this. This is what it looked like in that 80s comic. It was literally just like this is what the dart looked like. So this is how he modeled the helicopter, and a propeller. This was Moon Knight's helicopter, and then later on it became this in the shape of the crescent with the thing, and then this.
That makes a little bit more sense.
Eventually, it just went back to like it went back to what it was before this thing. It went back to this thing, and then later on it stop being like a helicopter. It didn't have a pilot. It would the way he would go on it is it would drop a ladder and he'd ride on the ladder and the helicopter would self-pilot itself, kind of deal. Um,
Oh, okay.
and a lot of his stuff is self-driving now. He has a self-driving limo because billionaire. Um,
So
but
I wonder if they'll rewrite it. I wonder if they'll rewrite it where the Egyptian god will just become like an AI. Like they'll just make it like an AI that guides him, a la
it could be.
Jarvis
It
or
could be
Friday.
like in the TV show.
Yeah.
I'm sure that they'll find a way to do it. In like the way I think it'll be is some sort of artifact like the way the Enchantress had it in what is that movie Suicide Squad, how she like touched the artifact and the like weird freaky thing came into her and then she was like the Enchantress or whatnot. I think that's
Mhm.
how they'll do it for the TV show. Um, but pretty much Moon Knight, he gets into his cab and he has the helicopter follow him. I don't know what the purpose of this was. He stops at a cafe, talks to someone, changes, and then I guess like for information. But he changes and makes his way to hey, what's up, guys? And so he makes his way to the to like this like bar, and he's like immediately he just breaks down the door, and he talks to the bartender, and he's like, where's the back room? And he's like upstairs, and he's like, tell your boss I'm coming into his trap. And he's like, oh, and he like calls up his boss, and he's like he knows he's coming in, and everyone's like talking, he's like, oh my god, is that Moon Knight? Is that the Moon Knight kind of thing? Pretty much, he goes in and he walks into like this like private like businessman room, and the golden dagger is there, and uh from like the side there's a guy in a cloak like wearing like this green cloak, and he has like a gun, and it's you find out that it's Bushman, and he aims the gun at Moon Knight, and the whole time Marlene was tailing him from her Mercedes, and she kind of made her way up, and Marlene's kind of like, oh, she's like, oh no, it's Bushman and Mark, they're gonna fight, and she like gasps, and Mark turns to like Marlene, and Moon Knight shoots his or Bushman shoots his gun, and Moon Knight kind of like hits a dodge kind of thing, and he like dodges the bullet, and then like Bushman's kind of like, oh, if I can't kill you, I'll kill the girl, and he shoots Marlene, but he like clips the side of her, and then Moon Knight just like beats the crap out of him. He's like this is for Marlene and for her father, and like Marlene has to stop him. She's like, you made your point. This dude is like bleeding out pretty much, and
So essentially, Moon Knight has Ultra Instinct.
yeah, pretty much he can dodge bullets. So basically, he's I've seen him dodge like a lot of stuff. Also too, what I think it is most champions after proving themselves don't want the gods don't want their champions to die. So a big champion is the Juggernaut. He is the champion of Sidorak. So this is Moon Knight, the first issue of Moon Knight from the 1980s. Sus- sustain, yeah. Um, so um, a lot of these champion characters don't want their champions to die because it shows that they're weak, that the god is not as strong as he seems. So an example is the Juggernaut, like the unstoppable Juggernaut. He doesn't, he doesn't like he's barely like it's like they don't want the Juggernaut to die, so he's constantly given more and more strength. And so like that's the thing with Moon Knight. He kind of like Khonshu doesn't want him to die, so he kind of like amps up his superhuman like whatever like default human peak is what he has kind of deal.
So pretty much Ultra Instinct.
Pretty
Like,
much, he
yeah.
can dodge bullets. So
And when you say Juggernaut, you mean like Juggernaut from X Men, right?
yeah, he is the champion of Sidorak, the way Moon Knight is the champion of Khonshu. They're so
Got you.
gods have their champions who represent them on Earth and do their bidding on Earth.
Well,
Which are
who is Thor's champion?
Thor doesn't have a champion. Thor is already on Earth. So Thor, it's kind of weird. It's Thor is more like Odin's champion in a way, but
Right.
not really. Um, Thor is a god and he does his bidding on Earth. Thor doesn't have a champion, and Thor he's a god, but not really. In the Loki comic, when I covered my first comic, gods are just stories being told, um, as Loki put it. Yeah, sustain. This is Marvel. This is Moon Knight. Um, Moon Knight. But yeah, Loki covered it pretty well. Gods are just stories. And the like retelling of prayers or stories is what gives these gods powers. If you forget about a god, they kind of like dwindle away. That's how it works. And so the champion also represents the god. They don't forget about the god because Khonshu's putting in his version of his champion in play, Mark Spencer, or Sidorak with Juggernaut. Those are the two main ones that I've known. I'm sure there's another one. I know Psylocke is the champion now, the Japanese one. She's the champion of one of the Japanese gods. And there's a lot of other like champions out there. I'm sure there's a few. But that's pretty much the 1980s run of Moon Knight. How that first issue came to be. This is what Marlene looks like. These are the people that helped Moon Knight. Khonshu statue. Um, and we cut the next comic that I wanted to cover was pretty much how Moon Knight runs street level. Um, so this one was written in 2014, and I didn't get to read all of this. There were about 17 issues of this comic, and it was fairly repetitive. But I will go over the first three comics, which is the ones I read. So it starts off in New York, and they talk about his dissociative identity disorder, and how Khonshu's warrior has returned to New York. And there's while he's driving down, like there's a detective on a crime scene, um, and he's kind of like looking at like a dead body, and so Moon Knight, or as this he puts it, Mr. Knight, since he's wearing the suit and tie and not the full cloak and body armor, he walks into the crime scene, um, and a lot of the cops are talking to each other like he's I think at this point in time, vigilantism has been outlawed. I'm not 100% on this, but I do know that at one point in the MCU, the Kingpin ran for mayor and outlawed vigilantism, and so um, he to kind of like loophole it isn't really a superhero at this. He's not Moon Knight, he's Mr. Knight, and that's how he gets his information from the cops who he goes after like the big threats kind of thing. And so he meets with
First off,
yeah.
Wouldn't you love to have that suit and tie
It
that he
looks
has?
great, right? An all
Like just to
white
be just
suit
a
and tie.
monochrome just
One
figure
color.
walking down the street.
This is his
And
limo, by the way.
second off, imagine not knowing that Moon Knight isn't Mr. Knight.
Yeah, I mean, it's
But
just kind
comic
of
book
like
logic.
yeah, it's like they know it's Moon Knight. It's just an alias that he puts up to cause
It's just a way to loophole the
yeah, the
anti-vigil.
loophole of the
Right.
yeah. So it's like they can't arrest Mr. Knight, but they can arrest Moon Knight, kind of thing. But they
And
won't arrest Moon Knight because he's out doing the good deeds, kind of thing.
does Moon Knight mainly operate in New York, or does he operate wherever he's needed?
So most of what I've read, most of the comic has been in New York. A lot of these characters operate in New York. So and I from the Civil War comic, I don't remember ever seeing him on either side. So because I know from Civil War, a lot of these characters, which is around, actually no, it's not. Um, it was way before 2014, but during the Civil War comic, a lot of these characters were sent out throughout the 50 states. So it was like, okay, Ant-Man's running a division in Arizona, or Iron Man is running his New York division, or Hawkeye's in the West Coast, working for the LA West Coast Avengers, whatever, right? Um, so that's kind of how it was. I don't remember him in the comic. I don't think he ever made an appearance in the comic. Um, I also believe he was operating somewhere in Egypt, hunting like pharaoh stuff. He like the paranormal kind of thing. Don't like as I stated before, Moon Knight is a Midnight Suns character, so technically working for Doctor Strange gives him jurisdiction planet wide because of um like he
The
can work
ability to be anywhere.
anywhere pretty much because he works for Doctor Strange fighting the metaphysical, not like common thugs, if that makes any sense.
That does make sense. So
Okay.
Just to be clear on something, the Midnight Suns is something ran by Doctor Strange himself, right?
Doctor Strange runs the Midnight Suns, yes, and
Okay.
that team is like Ghost Rider, Morbius, Moon Knight, bunch of other um characters that pertain to I don't want to say mythology, but like demonic and that kind of thing. Um, and so he was a fairly prominent character of the Midnight Suns before, or is still a fairly prominent character of the Midnight Suns. And so he does both. So if there's an attack somewhere around the world, Moon Knight will go there with the Midnight Suns, or he'll solo op in New York kind of thing. And that's pretty much this comic is just his solo ops. He makes it to the detective, and the detective is talking. He's like, "There's been a series of slashings. Someone's been like murdered with some sort of knife." And then Moon Knight like he takes a look at all the like prior killings, and he's like, "Oh, I've identified that the area he's killing in a certain kill zone, meaning that he's within this area of New York, whatever, and that certain organs have been removed from the body, and we don't know if this person is like selling them, consuming them, using them for his own gain, kind of thing." Um, and Moon Knight also identifies that his leg has been injured by the way that he's been hunting. Like he hasn't been like the people he's attacking are like gym fit buff dudes, and so he hasn't been like going out face to face and fist fighting them because most likely he'd lose. He's been like slashing them from behind and like subduing them and then cutting up their organs and taking them. And I don't know how he did it. Um, how he figured it out just from like looking at a dead body and other police reports, but whatever. Comic logic. And so he gets back into his limo and he's like, I'm gonna go fight this guy for you. I know where he could be, most likely in a sewer of some sorts. And they head down. He like heads down to like the sewer. He's in his limo. He drives down. He gets to a sewer. Um, and there's like an abandoned Shield headquarters, like way down past the sewer system. Like there's the subway. There's like all the homeless people, and then there's like the sewers, like the water pipes, and then down below, like you guys can't see it, but like way down below, like I was doing hand signals, whatever. Down below, like the lowest depths of New York is like a Shield facility, um, and so Moon Knight walks in dressed in all white, this exact uniform, and they talk about like he's talking about how he's gotten all of his equipment, pretty much laundering money, as whatever the rich billionaire guy was, he like stole blood money or whatever. Not important, but now you know how he gets his equipment. But they find the slasher. This is what he looks like, and you find out that he's an ex-Shield soldier that was hit by an IED or an improvised explosive device, and his body blew up. He was a soldier, and Shield pretty much left him to die. And when they brought him back, when they recovered his body, pretty much, they saw like he's missing legs and organs and stuff like that, and so they were like, yeah, it's pretty gross. Um, but pretty much Shield said you can't work for us anymore. You're not fit to be on the field. You're a field agent not fit to be on the field. So um, we have to let you go, pretty much. And so he made his way to that Shield facility and like patched himself up as best as he could. He gave him like a knife attachment, pretty cool. And like whatever, this looks like a sickle, but it also kind of looks like a really terrible like plank for a leg. I can't tell. But Moon Knight being a badass, I like he just starts talking to him. He's like identifying while the slasher kind of has a gun pointed at him. Um, and he's like talking to the slasher, and he's like, "Oh, why'd you do this? Just because you're like unfit. You're killing a bunch of like innocent people for their organs. Blah 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 blah." And like the slasher just gets real pissed off, and he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna kill you now, pretty much. And I know you didn't bring any weapons with you. So you're pretty much out of your league here. You came here to talk me out of doing something, but I'm gonna steal your organs and use them to heal my body." And pretty much he's like, "You're gonna die now." And Moon Knight's like, "I've died before. It was kind of boring." Yeah, yeah. It was boring, so I stood up. Very very iconic line. Um, and so then he does this thing, um, which is he talks about like he just goes in depth onto the villain or on the slasher, and he's pretty much like, I know who you are, I know what you've done, you're a coward, you're killing people, and it really pisses off the slasher. And right as like the slasher's like, I'm gonna take your organs now, Moon Knight's like, it'd be a shame if you could, but as you probably would want to look down, and he did, the slasher looks down, and Moon Knight had thrown one of his crescent darts at the slasher's legs and like completely cut them all off, and um like it made no noise because like Slasher was talking. They're underground, so the subway's passing. All right, bunch of noises cutting is making his way. So like Moon Knight threw his dart and cut the guy's leg off. And again, the Slasher shoots him, and Moon Knight blocks it with the crescent dart, which is by the way, the crescent dart is made of adamantium, the same thing Wolverine's claws are made of. So he blocks it. It's unbreakable. And then like this is the blocking scene. He like literally he fires it and like goes into his hand into his like pocket, pulls out the knife and blocks the bullet. Um, and then that was the end of the first comic. He leaves him there to die. After cutting off like his organs, stabbing him. Yeah, yeah. Dying is boring. Just why be a Chad and stand up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Just shake it off.
Yeah. But
Get you an Egyptian god to talk to, nerd.
pretty much. And that's how most of these comics go. It's like weird, like really weird characters that Moon Knight's fighting. Um, they talk more. And so the next comic they talk about the idea a little more and how Khonshu put in him four aspects. The Pathfinder, the Embracer, the Defender, and the Watcher, and all four of them make up Moon Knight, and each one represents Jake, Mark, Spencer or Steve, I think is the rich dude's name, and Khonshu, and all four of them come together to be like Moon Knight. Khonshu's kind of, or yeah, and
So his multiple personalities, he also just gets four more personalities as Moon Knight.
so Moon Knight is Moon Knight. Moon Knight is its own kind of personality.
Okay.
So if that makes sense. But pretty much this comic starts off with there's a sniper. You don't really get to see him until the very end, but the sniper's taking out like a bunch of businessmen. He's like bop bop bop. There's a bunch of businessmen. They're walking around, and Moon Knight on his bat helicopter, crescent helicopter looking thing. This is a helicopter, yes. He jumps down. This is his 2014 suit. He jumps down off of the building and heads to the sniper, who is just like murdered, like in the first like 15 pages, like just murdered like 8 people. And he gets up onto the building, and like while he lands on the first building, the sniper like grapples down to another building, and like Moon Knight tries to follow him, but the guy cuts the grapple cord. Moon Knight pulls out his staff, and at the end of the staff there's a grapple hook, and so he makes his way to the building. The sniper had a pistol, shoots Moon Knight. Moon Knight does not dodge this one, so he does take the hit. But when he makes it, he throws the crescent dart at He throws the crescent dart first, and it clips the back of the guy's leg because he's trying to run away. And so he falls like forward, and then while like the villain's trying to crawl away, he hits him with the baton, like the grapple part of the baton, and it kind of like, I don't want to say it impales him because it doesn't go through, but it kind of like grapples onto his skin and like pulls him back a little. There's blood that comes out, so I'm assuming so. And then Moon Knight, being the detective, they're really trying to cement the fact that he is Batman, Marvel's Batman. He pretty much is like, the sniper explains to him, he's like, oh, I was a sniper and I was part of this division, and they abandoned me and left me to die. Everybody's been left apparently, but and he's like,
well, I was about to point that out. It seems like every villain that Moon Knight faces has a similar backstory to him.
Yeah.
Whereas Moon Knight uses his issue for the greater good. He fights villains that use it for the worst. Yes.
Yeah. And so Yeah, I guess so. I guess in some aspects it works. And so he was like, I'm trying to get my revenge on the people that abandoned me, and Moon Knight pretty much just goes in, beats the crap out of him, like bop bop bop, and then the sniper's kind of like crawling away. He's been hurt, and at the top of the like as Moon Knight leaves, he pretty much he leaves a crescent, like battering kind of thing, and then the cop walks in and finishes him off. Like the cop comes in and shoots him because the it's supposed to be that the cop was the last member of the sniper's team, kind of thing, and so the cop kills
Hmm.
him so that because he knows like I gotta finish this guy off, kind of thing. Um, and then the last issue of this 2014 comic that I read, there's a lot more of this, but he's driving down and a couple of people start getting terrorized by what seems to be like ghosts, or I guess you could say specters. Ha ha ha! Ha. That's a joke because his last name is Mark Spector. Ha ha. Anyway, he goes after the ghosts and he punches them, but his hand kind of like goes through them, and then the ghosts kind of like beat him down against his like limo, and like he gets really messed up. Like he gets cut up in the back of his like rip the suit and tie there. He gets like his stuff ripped up by the spirits. And so he goes home and tries to talk to Khonshu. He's like, okay, Khonshu, I can't hit these guys. How do I stop them? And Khonshu's like, okay, you've been around for a while and you've collected a plethora of weapons from Egyptian graves that can help you deal with this. Look for the like go look for your relics and you will know which ones to take, kind of thing. And so he opens up like a box with a crowbar, and this is what he pulls out. Um, this is the uniform that he has, and pretty much it if you've ever played like World of Warcraft, this armor has this armor deals full damage to ghosts, and protects him from ghost damage. He also puts on the brass knuckles, which pretty much helps him find a way to kill all the ghosts. He goes, he like smashes their skulls in, and a few of them escape. So Moon Knight follows them on his helicopter, and he makes their way to a biker gang, and inside the biker gang, there's a bunch of skeletons, like dead people, um, and like so on one side of the room is like the gang members, and right in the middle is I guess what I'm assuming is the gang leader, and he has a gun in one hand, like kind of almost like as if he killed himself. So it's like this, and then a box in his other hand. And it at the bottom of the box it says, "I'll be waiting for you. Love, Mom." Yeah, these are some weird, freaky characters that Marvel has. And I haven't seen like from any of the villains here. I have never seen any of them come up. Slasher, Sniper Dude, any of these ghosts. Well,
Sniper dude.
yeah, just
Random
random.
basic sniper dude.
Yep. And pretty much, um, in the box, the ghosts hide away into the box, and Mark sees the box, and he realizes that they too were left to die by like almost abandoned by their mother and also the I guess the gang leader. I don't know. It's a biker gang run by a family, and the mother passed away, and so they feel like they were abandoned by their mother, and that's why they kind of lashed out. And so Moon Knight takes the box with all the ghosts in it, and like pretty much he just drops it in like Hudson Bay and like flies off. And that's the end of the comic. Um, that's pretty much it. Yeah, with a lot of these Midnight Suns characters, a lot of these characters are extremely throwaway characters, very dumb, very dumb. Yeah, Sniper Dude, um, what is it, Slasher, who like is his name isn't even the Slasher, it's kind of just like perp Slasher perp or whatever that the cops gave him, and
Basically, discount abomination.
pretty much and biker gang. And then if you remember from Blade, another Midnight Suns event had what is it? Meat Market was the character. Let's see, Meat Market Marvel. Yep, if you guys remember, good old Meat Market from Marvel Comics. What is it? This guy or this guy? He ends up killing himself. He ends up dying and then becoming this guy. Meat Market. Never ever. Yeah, your boy Meat Market makes his second debut in the in the Marvel Buddies podcast, never to be seen again. He was in that one Midnight Suns comic, and that's it. Actually, technically two, because he got reincarnated. Fan favorite Meat Market. But that's Moon Knight. And then so there is a good reason. Well, kind of lucky, but very good reason why Moon Knight was delayed. Um, a new Moon Knight comic came out on the 9th, so 4 days ago. I got to read it. It's one issue long, and all it is Khonshu's perspective of um, Mark Spector becoming Moon Knight. And so Khonshu tells him that when Mark died, he begged for his life, and so he spared Moon Knight, and in return, he became Khonshu's champion. Um, and so, from what I believe, um, the gods find their champions to do their bidding, like I said before, and so um, in this case, Mark doesn't fight criminals. Well, he does fight criminals, but it's not the only thing he fights. He's fighting the voices in his head that are fighting for control. At this point in time, um, Moon Knight has come to peace with his multiple personality disorder and has been able to silence off the other two voices, so as it's just Mark Spector, Moon Knight kind of deal, and then Khonshu, even kind of silencing Khonshu until he needs him. Um, and that's pretty much it. What the things that go on with Moon Knight are crime fighting on street levels and the mystical, like fighting mystical beings.
Does
Um,
he ever fight anything that could be considered a planetary threat?
so like Thanos and that kind of stuff.
Well, Thanos I consider to be a universal threat,
So
but
like a planetary threat, what do you consider like a planetary threat?
like a Ultron.
He was not in Age of Ultron. I would consider um certain like demonic characters that he's faced. I'm trying to
Has he
think.
ever fought Mephisto?
You know what? I have to look into that. I will let you know. I do not know if he's fought Mephisto, but mainly because there have been very few characters to go up against Mephisto and survive. The only two that I can ever tell you who are Doctor Doom and Doctor Strange. And they both almost got their asses handed to them. Um,
Well, I know
so
Spider-Man dealt with
um,
uh, Spider-Man's dealt with Mephisto before, but
I would say Ultron is a planetary threat. I mean, he doesn't make AIs outside of Earth, and in Age of Ultron, his goal was to turn every living being on the planet into a machine.
into a machine,
So
yeah.
I guess he is a planetary threat technically. Yes,
Yes.
Doctor Strange did survive Mephisto. Um, After bartering with Mephisto, um, him and Doctor, if you remember, um, yeah, Blackheart did almost kill him. A lot of characters have dealt with Mephisto, simply by playing the fact that Mephisto deals with trades. So, Spider-Man managed to, with Mephisto in that One More Day comic or whatever it was called, to revive Aunt May and get his identity um, wiped, like for everyone to forget that he is Spider-Man, in exchange for his firstborn child, which or well, technically it was in exchange for the his love with MJ, um,
Mhm.
and that caused him to lose his firstborn child, who would then become an even greater hero in like another Spider character. Um, I think if I remember correctly, she is the Spider Woman in Old Man Logan. If I remember correctly, she's the one that tries to kill Hawkeye, um, and becomes the Kingpin in that comic. But yeah, it's very interesting that how Moon Knight portrays to all of these demonic characters. Thanks for the belated birthday wish, Kumar. See you next Monday. But that's pretty much it for Moon Knight. If you have any questions, chat or Addex, I'll be happy to answer as much as I can.
Sure. I got probably an obvious one. You've said multiple times that he's part of the Midnight Suns, but has he ever teamed up with the Avengers straight up?
Yeah, I'm sure he has at least once. That I'm aware of, I don't think so. I would assume he's been part of like some sort of Avengers team. Trying to think. I didn't I didn't get to read that many Moon Knight comics. But from what I remember from the Avengers, I don't remember him being like a member of the Avengers. But to be fair, everyone's been an Avenger, so I'm sure at one point he was an Avenger and he has worked with the Avengers. Um, yeah.
Okay. And could you say if
Later,
he's
man.
ever fought the Avengers?
Has he ever fought the Avengers like to a standstill? Thank you guys for showing up, Crown and President. Has he fought the Avengers? That I'm aware of, like at a Civil War event? No.
Okay. And last question.
Mhm.
What would you power scale Moon Knight to? Like, for example, would you say stronger than
Ooh.
Iron Man? Would you say stronger than Thor? Would you say
Definitely
on par
not
with Thor?
stronger than Thor. I'd say, depending on his arsenal, on par with Hawkeye. Depending on his arsenal. If he has,
So
like,
you would say that Tony Stark could take him down in a one-on-one fight if it ever
de-
come down to it.
depending on his arsenal, I think if he's wearing something like this, or some sort of replica of this, he could. Um, it it he, he's definitely not stronger than Thor. Um, Not unless Khonshu starts like giving him like a butt ton of powers, man, and I mean like everything he has like just thrown at Moon Knight, maybe. But um, if he has, I think he can beat Stark for sure. Depending on the suit that he's wearing and depending on what Iron Man is wearing. I don't think he can beat Iron Man in say the exosuit, the exosim armor, simply because that thing is ridiculous. Um, but in something like the modular armor, like his default standard armor, against say default standard Moon Knight, like this version of Moon Knight, I think Iron Man has the advantage. Simply because Iron Man's targeting systems can counter the dagger in some way, at least repel it, or because it is indestructible, so at least in some way repel the dagger away from him, or the dart away from him. But it's a little confusing. These are street level characters that face off against
Moon Knight.
yeah,
So
yeah,
it'd probably be power scaled to someone like Black Panther then.
yeah, for sure. Black Panther, Hawkeye, I'd say those kind of characters. Power Man, Luke Cage, is what you're talking about, Crown. It would be a very interesting fight, being that Luke Cage has unbreakable skin, and he throws the crescent, what is it, the crescent darts, which can cut through almost anything. So, whether or not Luke Cage can block, or Power Man can block adamantium, I have yet to see that. I'm not sure, but it'd be an interesting fight to see the two of them duke it out. But that's
And
yeah. What's up?
I'm sorry, I
One
just thought of another
one more.
question, but
Go for it.
and and on a micro rating,
Okay.
what would you rate Moon Knight? Like 0 being absolute horrible character you have no interest in, or 10 being the greatest character ever.
Uh wow, I've never been asked this. I'm usually the one that asks this but I would give him a good 7 or 8. I think he's a fairly interesting character. Especially the fact that he's been humanized by the fact that he has multiple personality disorder. I think
Mhm.
that's very interesting. Not a lot of characters have like mental illnesses. So I think that's cool. Um,
Well,
he's a
I like his dynamic of being left for dead, and I like him overcoming that and using it for the
7.2.
greater good.
Yeah,
I would give him an 8.
yeah.
I think he has just a very interesting arc, and I think he has like his villains aren't the greatest, but I think him it's more the villains inside of his head, if that makes sense.
Definitely.
Dealing with the voices and literally bringing the strengths of all those characters to become Moon Knight is just something that is
Yeah,
just awesome.
for sure. If you guys do want any comic recommendations, you guys can at me on the Discord server if you're there. A couple of you guys have my personal information. You guys can message me. I can send you some of the Moon Knight, some of Moon Knight's better comics, for sure. I'll link some of those if you guys do DM me. Um, I'm trying to get the Gmail up and running, and I will link that eventually, so you guys can message me any questions, comics that you want to understand or read, or if you guys have any suggestions for the podcast, I will set up a Gmail there for you to ask. Um, yep. Later, guys. I will see all your votes in the top of the description. That Google form that I posted at the top of chat has the Google form here. This one, I will check it out. You guys can vote for um, not the next character or the following character, but the first character for the next month. I will continue doing all of the characters that you guys want to do. But that is Moon Knight for this week, and thank you guys all for coming out and watching. I'll see you next week. Goodbye.
Thanks for having me on tonight. And thanks
Yeah,
for
thanks.
literally educating me everything Moon
Yep.
Knight. Now
Thanks,
I know the
Addex.
character.
Thanks, Addex, for being on the show, our guest host, or guest star on this week's episode. Thank you so much. Hope to see from you more, and I'll see you guys next week.